But like one of the questions I would put to Sam Altman or to OpenAI generally is this idea we're doing it for the public, right? So we're going to have the board sort of decide who nominated you, right? Like where's the actual oversight there? This entire thing is a trust us sort of proposition. And if AI is what everyone claims it's going to be, that should be a fairly terrifying proposition, right? That the incentives are, we mean well. Well, lots of people do bad stuff on accident because they meant well. At some point, you have to actually look at the outcome. And you look at the outcome of OpenAI, it's not open. You look at the sort of, we're a nonprofit. It's definitely for profit. That's how they got a valuation of $90 billion, right? You look at all these different pieces and this disconnect between the rhetoric and the sort of reality, along with this bit of the fact that it's just the fundamentally wrong structure for a corporation doing the work that they're doing. It's uncomfortable. Like, as someone broadly observing the space, who most of my writing about OpenAI is just analyzing the business and analyzing what they're doing, there is a broader sort of concern here, and I think you put it very well. Say what you will about Elon Musk, he's putting his finger directly on that discomfort.
Well, the other question I had related to all that, you talk about the board's role. So the Wall Street Journal, in the lawsuit, Musk asks the court to rule that OpenAI has effectively achieved an early version of AGI with some of its tools. He also points out Microsoft's deal with OpenAI only gives it access to the company's pre-AGI technology, effectively arguing that Microsoft should remove the latest version of ChatGPT from its products. As you said, and then OpenAI, the board determines when we've attained AGI. Again, by AGI, we mean a highly autonomous system that outperforms humans at most economically valuable work. Such a system is excluded from IP licenses and other commercial terms with Microsoft, which only apply to pre-AGI technology. So doesn't this hit at like a pretty massive conflict of interest with OpenAI? Because leaving aside whether GPT-4 constitutes AGI and Microsoft research just let the cat out of the bag there, or even whether like Q-Star constitutes AGI, just structurally speaking or mechanically speaking, OpenAI is a company that's dedicated to responsibly developing AGI and eventually making it available for the benefit of humanity. But then who decides when OpenAI has attained AGI?
OpenAI does.
The OpenAI board. And who sits on the board and wields unknown influence, but has tremendous incentives to never designate AI as AGI? Microsoft. And so it's like,
no, this is one thing that the Musk lawsuit was wrong about. Microsoft is not on the board. After the brouhaha last year, they now have an observer position on the board, which basically means they can attend the board meetings, but they don't have a vote. But you are right about this very weird conflict of interest where on the OpenAI decide, so they get to decide when we, like from the Microsoft perspective, it's like your partner that you are dependent on gets to unilaterally decide when to stop giving you stuff.
Right.
Now, that sounds very bad. We saw that problematic sort of scenario play out last year. But then what happened? Microsoft basically made the board reverse itself and go backwards and put Sam Altman back in charge. Now, Sam Altman was taken off the board at that point. He's not back on the board. But why? Because OpenAI needs compute. Right? At the end of the day, this is the thing. You don't get to make up magic words and make up magic company charters that escape the limits of physical reality. At the end of the day, you actually need compute. Microsoft has compute, which means, and this actually makes Musk's case to a bit, Microsoft controls OpenAI. Like we saw that last fall. Satya Nadella basically went in and re-put Sam back in charge and cleaned out the board. Like, if you did it happen explicitly where he was articulating his words? No, it happened in de facto. Why? Because OpenAI needs Microsoft's compute. At the end of the day, compute is the lever that sort of matters here. And you go back to all these emails, and again, I was mistaken by getting too focused on the data, but the broader thinking was correct. I just should have been focused on compute. All these emails like Google's all the compute. We're screwed if we don't have compute. We need money because we need compute. And by the way, Elon got this. He was pushing it the most. And this is the other part where Elon's case falls apart. He was on board with becoming a for-profit entity. He just wanted the for-profit entity to be Tesla. Or if it was going to be independent, he has 51% and he's in charge. So like he understands why they went in the sort of for-profit direction.
I think everybody understands it would not have been possible to achieve what OpenAI has achieved.
To be clear, this is where I'm sympathetic to Elon. Like, no, I don't begrudge OpenAI for taking investment. I don't begrudge them for partnering from Microsoft. I'm just irritated at the sort of the allowance of a misunderstanding of the nature of the company at the beginning. And I think it's a big problem that misunderstanding was formalized in the corporate structure. This should not be a nonprofit.
Totally. Well, and even now, the company that was founded to pursue AGI and to share it now works for a $2 trillion company that wants to sell it and is heavily incentivized to suppress any information about AGI breakthroughs. And AGI is in the eye of the beholder, I suppose. I guess we'll have to decide as we go. But Elon highlights the absurdity there. And for that, I thank him, and for a hilarious case here. And I understand why OpenAI, despite the fact that these claims are largely meritless, it looks like, and the suit is possibly frivolous, OpenAI is really pissed off and sensitive about it, which you could tell from the way they responded to Elon this week. And they're
to your point,
emails and stuff, Well,
the mark of so Elon is the two T's. Number one, he's a takesman, and number two, he's a troll. And what makes trolls so effective is they identify your weak point. And they just put their finger right on it. And I think that you're exactly right. That is what is this lawsuit. Probably a loser in court, A+ trolling. And you could tell OpenAI is annoyed about it. Very irritated.
Well, and I don't understand why OpenAI released those old emails in their response to Elon. That was the only other take I had on all this. I did not love the way they responded, and it seemed like a self-own in some ways, because some of those emails are already being used against them.
No, that's exactly right. What those emails do is they 100% refute the legal case. They make Elon's legal case look stupid.
Yeah.
They 100% make the moral case. It shows back then in 2015, this whole open thing was a sham. It was just about recruiting. It was like, we have to get sort of money. So they're selling out the deception in some respects in order to make the legal case. And they got trolled and they totally gave into it. And this broader question, can you start out as a nonprofit, become a for-profit company, right? Or like this sort of like this subsidiary legally, I think they're probably okay, but as Musk notes, why doesn't everybody do this, right?
Yeah, exactly. It almost is like Elon is inviting the IRS to look closer at all of this and see whether there's any unrealized gains that need to be reported.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think that the timing, I think, is more favorable to OpenAI. Actually, like there was at the time, when did they become for the for-profit? Was it either 2017 or 2019? But in either case, they were kind of dead in the water, still sort of at that point. It was, I think the Transformer paper
100 times the amount of money since becoming a for-profit.
That's right. I mean, again, I think OpenAI is right on the legal bits, and I think even on this thing about the nonprofit to profit, I think it's kind of sketchy, but I think it's probably okay. Like, there was a meaningful shift in their enterprise value and like where they were at as a company pre and post that raise because of the shift, and they raised money and put it into it, because that was part of the whole thing of sort of realizing this possibility. So I think that's okay. But I don't know. You mentioned a bit about, but now Microsoft's going to be in charge. I would feel better if all this was within Microsoft. Microsoft is a knowable entity. They're understandable. They're super powerful, but they're constrained in a way that Google's constrained, right? We see it with Google. They have to be constitutionally cautious, because not just because they're scared of bad press, They have a business model to protect. And that's the whole reason we talk about the threat to them. If you looked at just capabilities, yes, there should be no challengers. They have great tech. They have all the infrastructure. The blueprints of all are now with the Chinese. They have like all these sorts of bits and pieces. The whole reason we even think there might be a chance for someone to unseat them is because of the constraints that are attached to large for-profit corporations. Like this idea of a profit-making entity is viewed at with undue skepticism. This is one of the triumphs of the publicly held stock corporation. They have stockholders, and that actually, at the end of the day, on a day-to-day basis, maybe doesn't make a difference, but it does matter in the big picture. And I would feel better about everything if all these companies, it's like this very narrow mindset. Oh, this is too powerful to be for profit. No, because it's powerful, it needs to be for profit.